This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. Ladies and gentlemen, my very special guest today was born in Texas, raised in Southern California. She has degrees in economics, creative writing, feminist studies from Stanford University, and she has a doctorate in law from Santa Clara University in California. She worked as a lawyer and organizer for Barack Obama's presidential campaign in 2008. And she later served as National Organizing Director of the Courage Campaign, which lays the groundwork for progressive change in California itself. She also is a leader and innovator in the racial justice movement, organizing Black People's Brunches, which brought together more than 12,500 people in 2018, and helping to set the organization's agenda in 2019 and beyond. Since joining Color of Change in 2012, she has ushered in some groundbreaking victories for Black communities, getting payment processors like MasterCard and PayPal to ban use of their platforms by white supremacists, and persuading Saturday Night Live to add 2 Black women to its cast and writer's room mid-season. She is currently Vice President and Chief of Campaigns at Color of Change, leading campaigns on civic engagement, voting rights, criminal justice, and corporate and media accountability. We've not seen one another since the pandemic and the quarantine and all that, so we're happy to have back with us Arisha Michelle Hatch. Dear sister, how are you?
I am hanging in there. Thanks so much. So good to see you, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you back as well. And we want to talk about some of the things that Color of Change has been doing and been very busy at doing. Rashad and I have been on a few conference calls. There's a lot going on. So let's start here. In the context of this police-demic, which kind of predates the pandemic. We've been dealing with the police-demic for a while. You all have managed to get at least one of these crazy cop shows off the air, right?
Yes. And it's actually a campaign that we've been working on for a while at Color of Change, one of my earliest campaigns back in 2013, where we started to talk to Fox about the show Cops, which I think we all have seen for decades. We've known as problematic for decades now. And we were at the time successfully able to get Fox to commit to not do any new episodes of Cops. It, of course, moved to a smaller network. And just recently, we were able to get that network to cancel a new season of Cops. We were also able to convince A&E, who's been a long partner of Color of Change for the last several years, to decide to cancel their highest performing show, Live PD. And we're really excited about that sort of progress and the potential it has to shift the culture of representation around policing in our country.
Because what those shows did was really glorify police in all of its misbehaving glory, didn't they?
Yeah, beyond just the glorification and romanticization of policing, these shows were acting as actual PR arms of police departments.
Mhm.
Every single production that is made in these reality TV series, the production company has an agreement with the police department. The police department can veto coverage. We've seen several instances where if there's an instance of excessive violence or an instance of a police killing, they bury that, they destroy that evidence. It never is aired, because the point of it is not to give a transparent, authentic view of policing. The point of it is to sort of, as you said, glamorize policing and the use of and normalize the use of excessive force in Black communities.
And that's important. I mean, we don't see shows. Before we even heard about Ahmaud Arbery, we're locked up in the pandemic, Arisha. And I binged on the BBC show. I think the name of it was In the Line of Duty. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the biggest series over there. And it is exclusively about police corruption. You know, now we know we get a lot of shows in this country that are spinoffs from original shows in other countries. But I never seen anybody try to put a show on TV here like this one, where the whole storyline was about police corruption and police misbehavior. It's as if the culture here is so interested in cover. I mean, we had some shows like The Wire and whatnot, but this was a whole dramatic series on it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I looked at it and said, you know, they'll never let a show like that come on in America because they're too busy, you know, glorifying and, you know, normalizing police behavior is right. But to actually have police under investigation for a whole series, a whole season, it was incredible to see. So those are big wins. And correct. Congratulations on those wins. How much of a difference do you think it will make in the collective psyche of this country when they are not able to see those shows, those types of shows?
Yeah, we know that it's hard to quantify, but there's been tons of research done and tons of studies about the impact of media representations on our worldview. We recently released a report in partnership with USC, the Norman Lear School there, in which they went through all of the crime procedural shows on networks, sort of the scripted crime procedural shows, as you were sort of mentioning, the show that you were watching on the BBC, which is the first of its kind sort of research. And what we see is really dramatic, the way in which a police officer in an episode can actually get away with unconstitutional behavior that any lawyer, anyone would say, this is an excessive use of force, this is discrimination, this is an unconstitutional search, all sorts of things, and still be the hero at the end of the episode. There is zero critique in most shows. And as you mentioned, you know, this one show in the BBC, like, we know that it's possible to get a more accurate nuance. You know, we've seen it here. You can go on Netflix and watch 7 Seconds or When They See Us. These are all like crime procedurals that are making an effort. There are several other shows that are sort of making an effort. And I think, you know, all you had to do is turn on the TV, turn on the news the last 3 weeks to actually get a more accurate portrayal of police. I didn't see hero cops. I saw incompetence. I saw people harassing elderly people. I saw cops breaking down over not being able to get a sandwich at McDonald's. We saw a whole bunch of stuff that Black people have been experiencing for decades in this country. And it isn't this hero cop view. When I turn on the news, I don't see hero cops right now showing up. Right. I see a system that continues to fail us.
Yeah. Just to highlight a little bit of that study, as it came out, 81% of showrunners, 21 of 26 series, were white men in these types of shows. The exceptions being Criminal Minds, Shades of Blue, Orange is the New Black, 7 Seconds, and Luke Cage. At least 81%, and see, this is another thing, at least 81% of writers were white, with only 9% Black across the genre. 20 of 26 series had either no Black writers or just one Black writer. Now, that in of itself across Hollywood is one of the universal or global problems, isn't it? Because the people who are writing these stories don't look anything like us or really the audiences that they're marketing to. Because we watch streaming shows and television shows as African Americans as much or more than anyone else, Arisha.
Mm-hmm. It is no longer acceptable to us that folks will try to tell Black stories without hiring Black writers, without reaching out to Black families that have been impacted by the issues that the storylines are actually sort of talking about. And so, like, for us, this sort of diversity question, that's like low bar at this point. Like, we expect to see an improvement there. But beyond that, we expect to also see a set of representations that are actually like authentic to the experience of the criminal justice system that we faced. And, I was staggered by the numbers to see them across an industry in that way. For years, we've just been saying, this show is bad, this show is bad, no, this, and sort of picking it apart, but to see it in a long-term view across a number of different shows, across a number of different networks, it's clear that there's a systemic problem that has to be addressed. And it's not enough for networks to put a tweet out or put up an image that says Black Lives Matter in this moment if they are contributing to and enabling these sorts of representations.
And not to mention, a lot of these shows are the ones that are rerun all the time, 24/7 all the night, so they're ubiquitous. So again, folks, just a couple more examples so I understand it. Because you all, when I name these shows, you say, yeah, it's on my TV all the time. Okay. 3 series that had 100% white writers: NCIS, Blue Bloods, Mindhunter. All right, 100% white writers. 5 series that had or likely had more than 90% white writers: The Blacklist. Now here too, everybody knows, or one I should say, Law and Order Special Victims Unit. That's on TV all the time. Blind Spot, 911, and Criminal Minds. Now, if in this moment, if more people were aware that they were watching and supporting broadcasts, that you're talking about 190% of reach. You mean you can't find no Black people? Mm-hmm. And we haven't gotten into the gender, lack of gender diversity. NCIS, 80% male. Blue Bloods, 75% male. NCIS Los Angeles, 82% male. Elementary, 80% male. Blacklist, 80% male. Blind Spot, 58% male. Chicago PD, 60% male. You can't find any people of color or women to write nothing?
Apparently. I mean, they're clearly not trying too hard in this area. And like I said, I think, the numbers are just staggering. And I think, we get a lot of questions, Black people are dying in the streets. Why are you talking about cops? Or why are you talking about law and order? And the reason is because these shows enable a culture where those sorts of abuses are allowed to happen. They enable a culture where people are allowed to say, yeah, go ahead and use a no-knock warrant and go shoot a woman while she's sleeping in her bed. Go ahead and put this man in a stranglehold over a $20 bill. Let's send 4 police officers out for a $20 bill. And so, that we're fighting the fight at the local level. Folks are pushing city councils to think about how they're investing in local governments. We're electing progressive DAs, but we're also saying to media corporations, you have a role in continuing this law and order mindset that we know to be dated, that we know doesn't work, doesn't lead to our communities being safer or to reducing crime. And we are trying to reimagine a new way, and we expect to see that vision played out on our screens.
It is a romanticization of that culture, and the very clear effect we even see in the President of the United States. Rough him up, knock him in the head, because that's what cops did. And to be honest, a lot of us watched it. We thought it was funny when the cops roll up on people, knock them upside the head, knock them down. And that's not funny anymore. Should have been funny in the first place. Okay, I'll get off of that. That's good work. Facebook. What's the latest with Facebook? Which is a whole another thing that we prop up too much, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we at Color of Change, we've been involved in a long conversation with Facebook that sort of started with diversity, and has moved deeper into uh, forcing them to do a civil rights analysis of their work. And they've been doing that for the past couple of years. That analysis has revealed, several weaknesses and several glaring holes in the way that they approach the work, in terms of the impacts on Black people. And so, over the years, we've been involved in a conversation about how Facebook doesn't protect Black organizers and activists, how it's actually been censoring and suppressing, while not dealing with a set of white supremacists who are harassing Black organizers on a daily basis. We saw in 2016 how Facebook failed to prevent foreign agents from creating fake Black Lives Matter pages to spread disinformation and actually increase voter disenchantment amongst Black people. We're seeing now how they are refusing to check any sort of disinformation or incitement of violence from Trump, because that campaign is spending so much money on their platform. And what is clear to us is that Facebook is too big, too powerful to no longer be regulated. And we are asking corporate advertisers, folks that spend millions and millions of dollars a year, tens of millions of dollars a year, advertising on Facebook, to take a break for a month, to give organizers the space to be in real conversation with the leadership there, and for them to make some changes.
And there's obviously still slow to do that, aren't they?
Absolutely. We've been doing a lot of organizing work with employees inside Facebook, and, leadership is facing a revolt from folks who are just like frustrated over the inaction. And so there's a set of internal pressure happening. There's a set of external pressure happening. But we are really looking for them to address in a real way some concerns that we think, are pretty basic. Like, the president of the United States shouldn't be able to post something on Facebook that says, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. He shouldn't be able to post something on Facebook that says, protesters will be treated differently in Tulsa. They shouldn't be able to buy ads using swastikas and, white supremacist iconography in order to recruit more voters for them. And so, that's the conversation that we're engaged with Facebook with. We feel like their inaction creates the potential for harm for their Black users, and we're asking them to do something different.
Tell us a little bit more, if you would, Arisha, about how they censor and suppress Black activists.
There was a whole report released a few years ago. I'm going to forget the publication that did just great reporting on this, but they actually revealed a training document that they give to their staff, and in terms of how they are dealing with race-centered stuff that is put up there. And there was actually a training that told them, hey, if someone's, talking about white identity or being a white male, this is acceptable. But if we're talking about other forms of identity, this is not acceptable. You should suppress that. We've had numerous anecdotes of organizers whose information has been, private information has been shared by white supremacists, their addresses, their phone numbers. Facebook has failed to sort of shut down those pages, has not responded in that way. They've put our organizers in Facebook jail. They continue to throttle the pages of nonprofit organizations like Color of Change, forcing us to spend more money on their platform to even talk to our own members that are there. Right. And this is a piece of technology that was put out, for good, to change the world according to its founders, and it's now having all of these very dangerous impacts for Black people.
The thing about wanting us to spend more money on their platform is real. And I tell people all the time, I say, well, Mark, I did some on Facebook, and it keeps getting the same number of views every day, 1,500, 1,200. I say, yeah, because they want you to spend money to get more views. Whereas rather than just spread organically, and they do that with us mostly. But again, here's the problem. Aren't we as African Americans one of their biggest consumers?
Absolutely. We're complicit. You know, Facebook, there are more people on Facebook than adhere to Christianity. Like, it is that big. And so it's not just Black folks, it is globally a phenomenon. But we are, for a lot of these social media companies, like, we make them cool, we keep them relevant. They profit off us. They send us ads that are dangerous for ourselves and for our family, and we're, you know, addicted to it. And it's part of the reason that we're, you know, I know other folks have called, you know, and continue to call for people to, you know, shut down their Facebook accounts, which I think is great. But it's part of the reason that we now have this corporate advertiser strategy, sort of saying to these corporations, no, actually, it's not okay for you to continue to profit, to continue to try to sell us stuff when this platform refuses to acknowledge the concerns of almost every major civil rights organization in the country.
How's that going in terms of getting advertisers to pull out?
Yeah, there have been a couple of folks that have pulled out very publicly. North Face was one of the groups. Patagonia was one of the corporations that pulled out. We're in deep conversation with over a dozen corporations right now, trying to add to the list. And the first people we started out with were the folks that emailed us or posted on their social media accounts that they cared about Black lives.
Yep.
We, you know, folks have seen, you know, how I think corporations responded in a really different way in this moment than they have in the past, but we are now asking them to match that with their values, with their practices.
You know, this is important, and this is a good campaign, folks. And to me, we've got to figure out a way ultimately, not only to hold Facebook accountable and those types of platforms, but I wish we could figure out a way. And I mean, I'm just saying this, it's not necessarily Color Changes ministry, but we got to figure out a way to build our own platform for our people, so that we aren't so dependent. I mean, we go on Instagram, which is Facebook now, 500,000 to 1 million of us to watch Versus, to watch Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. And this entity is treating us in the way that you just described. That can't continue to work for us. That's cognitive dissonance for us to lend that type of support and viewership to something that is treating us in the way you describe. I mean, that's just my editorializing, but as people, we have to really think about that. And folks, everyone under the sound of our voices should support this particular campaign. So for people who are listening, Arisha, what should they do to support the current campaign against Facebook? Is it a matter of people also reaching out to other businesses with whom they spend money that advertise on Facebook and say, hey, I spend my money with you. We need you to pull out of Facebook. I mean, what do you suggest? What do we ask people?
Yeah. I think there are a few things that you can do. One, you can go to colorofchange.org. The petition is there. If you sign that petition, you'll start getting updates on the different asks. And, you know, every couple of days, we'll send out a new corporation that we're targeting. We'll ask folks to make calls or to share things on social media. And so that's one way to plug in. Another way to plug in is, you know, as you said, Mark, if you have real power in a situation, if you are a decision maker at a business, and can begin the conversation within your corporation about, you know, not participating in Facebook ads for this month. You know, that's something we can also help folks out with as well. But, you know, we are working. We're not asking folks to do this for forever. We are asking corporations that support the broader movement for Black lives to cut off the financial source for a month, so that we have the space to engage in real conversations with Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah, to create that tension. Color Change involved in a number of important campaigns, including ending the war on Black people, a whole list of things that need to happen to change the police. There needs to be defunding in the form of redirection of funds. And a whole lot of people have tripped out on that phraseology, but I think people finally get what it means, right? Arisha, folks like, oh, you can't defund the police. But I think people now finally understand what we mean when we say that, don't they?
I'm hoping they do. I think for the first few weeks, we really had to work to define it because other folks were trying to define it for the movement. There are a lot of different examples and a lot of ways that this can look in local communities and should be owned by local communities. But, I resist the urge or the temptation for us to like radicalize this idea. It is not radical in the middle of a pandemic where our healthcare system is strained, where schools are trying to reimagine how they're going to teach their children, where folks are, we have a tough economy and folks are losing their jobs, can't find affordable housing. It is not radical to say there needs to be more investment in those things. Versus the way that we're investing now. And so I'm hoping we've seen a sea change in how people even embrace the phrase Black Lives Matter over the last 3 weeks compared to the last 5 years. And I am hopeful that we will continue to, people will be able to talk about the defund movement in ways that are accurate.
Folks, state of emergency, police violence against Black people. 1, from color of change. Strengthen police use of force policies. 2, end policing and prosecution of low-level offenses. 3, establish effective civilian oversight boards. Listen to that word, y'all. Oversight. Not just civilian complaint review. We need that too, but we need oversight. Very, very important. Point number 4, respond to mental health crises with healthcare, not police. 5, require independent investigations of police violence. 6, end the profit motive in policing. 7, invest in healthy communities, not policing. 8, remove unfair protections for police officers in union contracts. 9, increase transparency and accountability for police misconduct. And we want you to text demands to 55156 to get involved. Demands to 55156. Okay, Arisha, what else you working on? Give us a heads up. Give us a little tease about what we're going to be doing next. I know me and Rashad are talking about something top secret off the record too ourselves. So
there's so many top secret things. You know, we've been working in partnership with Airbnb for about a year now around concerns that we've had with that platform. It's a really rare thing for us to sort of collaborate with a corporation like this, but we're trying to get them to measure discrimination that travelers and hosts face based on their perception of race. And so our partnership is to actually prove with them that racism exists on their platform as a means to get them to look at different policy shifts. We're obviously in the middle of a huge election cycle. There are conversations at the national level about criminal justice reform. I mean, it's just about everything we're working on is happening right now.
Folks, I'm not just saying this because Rashad and I are friends, and me and Arisha and Heather are cool. Color Change is doing real work. It is scientifically measurable work. Some of us think that if we get a bunch of likes and retweets and reposts and shares, that we won. That's really all those are. Likes, retweets, reposts, and shares on the very social media that Color Change is trying to hold accountable. So all of that is really illusory. If we're not doing real work, bringing about real tangible change, then we're on the hamster wheel. So somebody called me the other day. They said, Mark, we have a lot of money we want to give. And they said, who should we give it to? I said, Color Change. I did that because you all are actually doing the real work that's bringing about tangible results. And that's not to put others down, but folks, let's not give in to the illusion, especially on social media and Facebook, that the number of likes is actually alone bringing about change. And Arisha just said another word that's very important. She talked about local. Police are governed locally. We're not going to reform local police departments 30,000 feet in the air from Facebook and Twitter. So we got to get organized. Get with colorchange.org. Trust me, you will not regret it. You will feel an even greater sense of accomplishment than you feel just out here on your own. We have not had a successful movement at any time without organization. Colorchange.org. Org means organization, is trying to do that. All right, I'm through preaching, Arisha. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I appreciate, you're talking about the importance of institutions and building things that outlive, singular figures. And, there are 150 people at Color of Change that come in every single day. They get paid to think about how to improve the lives of Black people. And, we're out here trying. We're not always perfect, but we're out here trying to push things forward and actually not just have a big social media presence, but actually get into conversation with powerful decision makers and ask them to change their mind.
Indeed. And you were doing just that. Folks, don't forget colorchange.org. Arisha Hatch is the Vice President, Director of Campaigns as well. Thank you, Arisha. Give the whole team my regards. I'm at your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.